Here we go. Welcome to ControlTalk, Manager Smart Buildings video cast and podcast for the week ending August 26, 2018. This is episode 280, where we talk about all things smart controls, all things smart, and we might throw a couple dumb things in just to keep it interesting. So, without further ado, let me introduce your co-host and mine, the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only, Mark Peacock and his sidekick, Kenny Smyers. Hey, Mark and Kenny, welcome to the show, boys.
Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. It's the first time I've ever been put ahead of my friend Ken. So, hey, I feel honored this morning. Thank you.
You know, that's the way Kenny Smyers rolls. That's why he's the man, the myth, the legend, man. He always.
Wait a minute. I see something different out there. Did you do something different in your studio? No, it's not your studio. It's those headphones. What's going on? What's going on with the Neon Xeon headphones?
All right, listen, for all you podcasters and all you videocasters and all you people that want to get in the realm of the cool when it comes to smart building controls or videocaster podcasts, man, you have to have a 5-year-old. You have to commandeer their headphones if you want to be cool. These are my daughters, Devil and Grace, and I tell you what, man, they're cool. They're stylish. They go with green.
I think that's going to be
fit on the dome.
Borrowed them. Borrowed them, because as soon as she realizes they're missing, guess what?
Well, you guys better be going in screaming, so we're going to have to try and be a little clandestine.
But they do match your speakers on the left. I don't know if you know that. You got a little yellow woofer down there on your right.
Actually, acid green, Kenny.
Acid green.
Yeah.
Well, getting old, my ability to discern colors is diminishing. So they look kind of yellowish to me.
I got them their complimentary colors.
Acid green.
The red here, and I got my Atlanta United shirt on. So
hey, how'd they do? That guy just set the record again.
Set the record, yeah. He
did.
Now, Mark, you got a hell of a player up your way, because you got the Washington team, and Wayne Rooney just came over. And
that's what I understand. Unfortunately, that is one sport I do not follow.
Mark, I tell you what, in Atlanta, it has become the deal. And I think this bears a story, because obviously we learn from other industries. We learn from other, how we can be better. But so Arthur Blank, the owner of the Atlanta Falcons, Ken Sinclair will be proud of us, because we're going to go a little tangential to his whole human experience. But Arthur Blank owns the Falcons and owns the Atlanta United team, rethought or reimagined what MLS soccer should be. Okay. So he started with the experience. So the first thing he did was, you got the Mercedes Dome, which is an awesome stadium in and of itself. He got together with all the vendors, and they all agreed that they were going to create a great experience. First thing they did was they lowered prices on all the items, the food items. Had to be high quality. They were going for volume, lower price. They trained everybody at that stadium. If you take your family down to that stadium for a soccer game, everybody from the guard at the gate, the person taking to your tickets, has got a smile on their face. They're welcoming you. They're patting your kids on the head. I mean, it's obvious they've been trained that this is more than a soccer match. It is an experience, okay? Now, what most MLS soccer is sort of catching on, but in Atlanta, they sell the dome out every single time, and everybody stands the whole time. It is the most spectacular sport. But what Arthur Blank did, instead of going and paying a lot of money for European players that are on their last leg, proprietary controls, what he did was he went and hired the very, very best manager, a guy named Tata Martinez. And he's coached World Cup teams. He's a great coach. Paid him an ungodly sum of money to come to Atlanta. All their players are young players that want to study with him, because it helps them get to the Premier League. So you got these young, exciting players. You got this great coach. You have this great experience. They're selling more merchandise than the Falcons and the Braves. More people. You go to that thing, it's sold out every single time. You're on your feet the whole time. You can take your families there. So he created the experience. My point in telling this story, other than get to justify wearing my shirt, is that he started with the experience. And I think, Mark and Ken, At the end of the day, I think we're moving towards that realm where if you don't have a great control system and you don't have great pricing and great tech support, you're not in the conversation. So I think the conversation is going to start to shift more and more to the experience.
Well, I think the context, taking the first stab back at this, is that the user experience it's more than that when you go into some kind of an event like that. In other words, you can literally probably, the next thing you guys will see happen is your phones will all become, your guiding path. So, the idea of a stadium is for young people to get involved. So they'll have their things like you can actually have your phone on now when the games are being played, and it tells you the stats of the players. It keeps you engaged in another dimension while the game's going on, which I think is really cool. So, and I agree with you that football has run a serious course. I think we watched the exhibition game last night with the Steelers, and it was so blah. It was just like, and then it's so long, and everybody's wandering around, standing around. It's like a cow, like horses in a like a thoroughbred race. You wait for the race to get started. Each play is like so. There's something going on. There's a transition. There's an evolution. There's something desirable that we can't put our fingers on. But it's the soccer thing.
But there is. But I think it starts with rethinking. Now you talk about the phone and being at the game, right, and be able to get the stats on your phone. Mark, it sounds an awful lot like to me like analytics at the edge, which is a trend that you guys have sort of embraced and are sort of leading the way on.
It is, part of our whole strategy over the last 4 years or so is looking at the business in parallel at the edge and up to the enterprise. And then all part of this is having everything being shifted, or a lot of things being shifted to the edge. And again, we get our data from there. We connect at the edge. We do integration at the edge. We do everything at the edge. So that next logical step is doing analytics at the edge. And we've started doing that with the introduction of a product a couple weeks ago, our Onyx Analytic Edge device, which does take SkySpark and allows folks to utilize SkySpark right there at the edge. And, interesting, you made a comment, Eric, about the experience. And I think, you mentioned a few things, but ultimately part of that experience, as I see it, is the outcome. In other words, for us in buildings, all of us in this industry, in the controls industry, it's about creating and delivering operational value. And that in turn leads to delivering business outcomes. And that's all part of that entire experience. Yeah. Yes. The building owners today, they want choice as a distributor, as integrators, as manufacturers, as all of us who are united in this community. It's up to us to deliver choice and choices for the end user. And again, I think when all this comes together, it ultimately is about the experience.
Well, Mark, and I tell you what, if you can't deliver all the stuff that you need to have a building operate efficiently and give the owners what they need in terms of analytics, you're just selling another bag of snake oil, right? Mm-hmm. So and I think you got to focus on. But cycle back around. Why is analytics at the edge, and why is the edge important? Why should people care?
Well, I think technology is helping us get there. Greater computing power, lower cost has enabled us from let's just call it a hardware perspective to be able to do that. Second is, doesn't it make sense to do everything where things are at? In other words, at that device level. We want to manage control at the device level. We want to get the data. We want to analyze it. We want to be able to shift in real time in many cases that, okay, if we see an anomaly or we see something, that we want to go ahead and answer that with the appropriate response. But again, we've seen it shifting to the edge for some time now. And I think the whole concept, and everybody has their own definitions of IoT, but IoT in buildings, or BIoT, building IoT, has truly helped push this analytics at the edge. And it's, why not do it at the edge? If you can do it, why not do it at the point of origin? So
well, it's got to be less expensive and then less chance for failure, right?
It is. It is, because again,
like you took your iPhone and said, okay, the apps are on the phone. It's like saying, well, we're going to go up to the cloud to run the app and then push the data back down, right?
Exactly. So at the same time, doing it at the edge, and we're not saying, everything has to be done exclusively at the edge. We're saying do it at the edge, and then whatever you need, send it up to the cloud. The cloud is still an important element in this whole thing, but there's no need to do everything up in the cloud. A couple things, you reduce your data transformation up to the cloud, so that helps. You don't clog the network as much. And second is, the whole idea about cybersecurity. If you're doing it locally, you're not bringing in another element that you would have to worry about with respect to cyber.
Listen, I just, this is an awesome analogy because first you start off by the concerted effort made by the management, the owner, bringing together all the vendors and saying, listen, I want this to be, give me your best product, your best price, because it's all about volume. I want this stadium sold out. I want I want soccer to take over, become number one. So you see that concerted effort. Then you see the user experience, all the technologies that engage young folks, old folks alike, but it's about the field and them, their seats, and how they can track in their own way their own experience with the game. So I didn't mean everybody's going to go with a phone and just, watch the game on the phone. It's what's happening is the next, you could keep track of somebody's record. Like the guy just set the record, goal scored for Atlanta. I mean, it's extraordinary. It's just so exciting because that experience is alive both in your seat and on the field. And then finally, like Mark said, so that's the edge. And then the cloud is, you still get the big experience. You still got the big theme. You got the big scoreboard. So it's doing, the replays and things like that make it, just a tremendous overall success. But you have the edge experience. You have the big theme experience with the getting people in and out of the stadium is probably very important. Parking was probably an elaborate thing. The traffic patterns all worked out so that from leaving your house to coming back home, the experience has been, just optimized, so that's what you said, very start was creating operational efficiencies, and delivering through technologies. That's just I know it was a stretch, but I like.
And then they incorporate like Uber and Lyft and all, so they have places for those, the competing technologies, they come in. So nobody really they'll take MARTA down there, but it's so crowded. So everybody's got their place to go for their Uber and their Lyft. Well, they've incorporated the whole thing, but it's, and again, I think we need to give some kudos to, in our industry, I think, somebody that made a great stab at it, sort of the experience. And I think, I don't know about you, I didn't think it was going to work. And at a certain level, it didn't work. But I think you got to look at Lindsay Baker and the folks at Comfy, where they took the phone and they basically put an app in the phone where people could interface with their building system, say, I'm too hot, I'm too cold, and it would have an effect. And, it turned the heating into the cooling on for a little while. And everybody thought, well, this is crazy. You're going to override the system, and you're going to spend a lot more money on this, and it's not going to work. But it went the other way. That's what data says. People were more energy efficient by being given a choice.
Because you got them involved, and they don't waste. If you give people a choice to be green or be ungreen, they're going to be green.
Unless you're our age, in which case,
I'm
we want the muscle cars, right, Mark?
No, muscle cars for sure. But to your point, though, let's look at how the conversation has changed over the years. We've all been in this industry for a while. Even 3 years ago, we weren't talking about the occupant experience. We weren't really, we knew comfort, temperature, important or whatever, but at the same time, it really was never part of the conversation. We talked about efficiency, we talked about energy savings, we talked about sustainability, we talked about all those other points, and yet we never talked about that. But look how experience truly has now entered our world, and everyday conversations includes employee productivity now, comfort, wellness, all of those types of different subjects now are part of our conversation on a daily basis between the owner, integrator, and the technology providers.
Yeah, Mark, I think
the point. Well, the point of view and the voice changed. In other words, I think now, some of the experience and exposure I think I've gotten in the last, say, those 3 to 5 years you mentioned is that, we now hear the voice of the customer so much louder, and the larger the portfolio, the more you realize that our sheet of music wasn't the same sheet of music they had. Our sheet of music was always from an energy first for, do whatever you can to save energy. And then we find out that energy pie is not the biggest part of the pie. The productivity part's 300 times larger, or at least 100 times times larger. And then so when their voice came through, it was making the user experience and the occupancy experience so profoundly different that they would maintain, tenants, and that these tenants wouldn't flight to the next new building where the perception was it was a better place to work and maybe user, just a cleaner, healthier, the wellness part of it. So.
Mm-hmm. I think the other thing that we need to take into consideration is because, when you look at Arthur Blank and what he did, I mean, a lot of it sounds a little bit like the bid and spec, low price wins. Low price did not win with Arthur Blank. I mean, in other words, they worked together, and the give back there was, hey, if you'll work with us on this, we're going to make sure that you're successful, right? Whereas typically in the way it works with our buildings, right? Engineer writes a spec, people bid on the spec, the people that don't honor the spec 100% have the low price, win the bid, the job goes in, the engineer doesn't, and a lot of times doesn't hold up to the spec, and then the owner basically gets involved with this inferior product, right? So, I think the other side of it that we don't talk about, and what we have sort of talked about on the show, is I think owners, and I think to an extent they have to rethink how a building gets born and how the control systems get in. And, probably talk about new construction, because we still see it now. Things are in different sections. They're trying to get the lowest price, and at the end of the day, the owner loses, and the occupants lose because they're not getting the experience, and that means the owner's going to lose.
And I think that's a good point, Eric, in that I look at it like this: is price important? Sure, okay, but equate price with value, and then extend that is a term that I've used over the years on the marketing side, but now I've seen a different way how we equate it to our equipment and to our operational side of a building, is maximizing the lifetime value. And to your point, all right, I might be able to get, this for $10, but for $12, I could get something else. And long term, that's going to extend. People are going to be more productive in this case, or what have you. And that $2 difference really ends up being a major additional cost when you bring in this whole lifetime value part of the equation. So.
Sure, and you're going to have all these great metrics to do it. Now that we finally have, I think what happened too was we did not have the scientific data and the metrics to back up claims that better lighting or whatever made people more productive. So now you've got these incredible studies coming out. The one by Harvard stands out most profoundly, is that they're going to start putting wellness ratings on buildings. That the lighting affects productivity so much that if you don't have it, you don't get the highest rating. Your building is going to be rated, by these 9 different categories. So obviously fresh air, heating, cooling, water is coming into it, and now particulates. We're finding out that they're going to mark microns, and because they've realized so many people have topographical allergies because there's so many chemicals flying around from the carpets and the curtains and things that we didn't think about. But now, when you start looking at first cost versus your maximized lifetime value, you're right. You pay me now, or you'll pay me twice as much or 10 times much later. But if you want to get this highest rating for your occupancy, you got to have somebody interfacing the building owners with technology, so they can pick and choose how much they're willing to invest, but certainly be aware of it. Know the consequences that, there's this driving force coming down the road, Title 24 leading the way, saying we want to have maximum efficiencies, but we also got to start looking out for people's comfort. The air, ASHRAE just came out with a whole new document, June 2018, that you got to buy to get, but it's got a whole new set of engineering information in there it's like a Honeywell engineering manual. It has all the diagrams, everything that you need to know, so that you go into the next round of new construction. There's a new sheriff in town. This ASHRAE document, again, came out in June 2018. It's going to start changing a lot of stuff because it has some of the things that we've been talking about in it. Not all of them, but some of them, and it's very important. But
and then look too at how the setup of an office has changed. More importantly, the person's personal space. We all used to sit all the time. Now we have the desk that can go up and down, or you have something on your desk that allows you to stand. And they say standing makes you more productive, more efficient. Obviously, it can be better health. I've seen offices where they've got treadmills attached to the desk, and a person can go and walk on the treadmill for an hour, bring their laptop, do their thing. And a new one I saw last week, and I need to send this to you guys, is an office that has a swimming pool type desk, a big water-filled cube, and the person is sitting there typing and doing their stuff, and they're getting their exercise by kicking in the pool and things like that. Blew me away, and it is real. I'll send it to you so you can post it for people.
You know, you said that, and I just
unbelievable.
I had a horrible thing on somebody sent me where somebody had an iPhone or a phone, and they were taking a bath, and the phone slipped into the bathtub, and they got electrocuted. So I mean,
an iPhone?
Yeah, with some kind of a phone, some kind of a charging thing.
Oh, charging.
Well, I'll say I agree. Listen, I got to do this. I know you guys are going to think I'm out of my mind, but I just want to bring to everybody's attention. This is not a joke. The Texas girl electrocuted while using cell phone in bathtub, and somehow even I didn't say which phone it was, but I'm just saying the Consumer Protection Commission has just generated an alert and warning to make double sure that your kids aren't playing with their electrical stuff, especially their phones. I know. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, changing subject. I'm looking at pictures.
You just got all this information, Ken. I mean, no,
it just scared me to death because my daughters, my kids used to do that. My wife charges her phone. And we got all these the things that as soon as water hits electric, it shuts that circuit down. But something malfunctioned. Either the house was old, and to tell you what, it's worse than dying of carbon monoxide. I can't stand here anywhere in the world somebody dies from carbon monoxide because there's no reason for it. There's so many cheap sensors. It's just you could prevent a death. We have a responsibility to always look out for everybody, and it's part of our jobs as in the HVAC industry is to always let somebody know when there's something wrong. So, okay.
Hang on. I think what Kenny's leading up to is I think he's lobbying to have a new award category at ControlTrends, the Ken Smyers Safety Award. So, and sorry to interrupt, Kenny. I think the point being is that when somebody's talking about price, the way you overcome price objections is you change the conversation. And why do Ken and I and now Mark sort of join this conversation about the experience? Because the experience is the conversation, the talking point that more and more owners are becoming aware of. Because guess what? If their tenants aren't having a great experience, they're just like me and you. They can't charge as much for lease. They might lose tenants. So if we're doing this because you got to change the conversation. And we've said it in the past that, if you don't have a great product, you're not in the conversation. If you don't have great pricing, great tech support, you're not in the conversation. Guess what? As Mark will attest to, there are a ton of people that have that. But what frame are you putting it in, and how is it being presented, and are you listening to what's important to the owners now? So that's that. And talking about changing the conversation.
Change it.
I had the great experience of having two guests come to Atlanta on Monday. And I tell you what, the boys were back in town, Mark Peacock and Kenny Smyers. They got on their horses. They rode to Atlanta. And boys, tell them why you came to town.
Go ahead, Mark. You go first.
Thanks, Kenny. It was a good ride to town. Nice to be back in Atlanta. But the fearsome threesome actually took a field trip. And we went over to the very, very beautiful place, the Fox Theater, which, as everybody knows by now, I hope, or we hope, that it's going to be the venue for the 2018 ControlTrends Awards this year. And what a venue this place is. Absolutely breathtaking, magnificent. It really gets your mind thinking, your heart pumping, and it's just an amazing place to see this theater, and then to also be in a place where anybody, and I mean anybody who is anybody in show business, comedy, music, political affiliation, royalty, whatever, has been through this hall, through this venue, and been part of this. Absolutely breathtaking.
Egyptian ballroom, Atlanta's finest. Dining for tonight. It's this thing goes back, dancing for tonight, 1927, 1929. So it was built right before the Great Depression, and they had some bad luck there because of the Great Depression. But they built this thing to the highest standards in the world. This thing looks like something out of the old Hollywood movies because the grandeur of it. It's gilded ceilings. It's like the Syria Mosque used to be in Pittsburgh, and Heinz Hall, and all these Carnegie Halls around the country and around the world. It is the finest architecture, the finest woodwork. They showed us these little towels down in all the different rooms, the speakeasy towel, ladies' room and men's room, where every single towel was handmade, a towel plate on the wall. So, I mean, it's opulent, but it's going to be the perfect environment because it's designed, like Mark said, every single person in the entertainment industry has been there. Greg Allman used to play there every New Year's Eve, as you told us, Eric. So this place is designed acoustically and theater-wise as the optimal place to be. So to have the opportunity to use this as our ControlTrends venue assures us that we got enough room, enough latitude. We're gonna have great sound. I'm looking at a picture of the backdrop that they have. It's an Egyptian. It's from the the fabulous days where everything was pillars and incredible marble slates, and then just in the lighting capability here. So what we're trying to do is kind of recollect and remember what we saw down there, so we can have testimony that this place is going to be the place to be for right before HR. The ControlTrends Awards, this is probably going to be our best show ever, simply because the venue gives us such a push head start.
It does, and to your point, the architecture is something that is the great historical side of architecture, that you go and you see the detail and the craftsmanship that went into this, which today, obviously, with many of our buildings being just glass structures or whatever, you don't see that. You don't experience. Go back to the experience that you're seeing that. And again, if those walls could talk in that place, of the people that have been there, who have performed there, who have looked at shows and been part of that experience there, it's just absolutely amazing. And I think there's very few of those types of venues left in the United States where they have, spent a lot of money to restore them to their original opulence and, what they are and what they mean. Again, can't speak more highly of the event, of the venue itself.
Yeah, it's just absolutely spectacular. And dudes, I got to tell you, man, the Allman Brothers used to play there. Greg Allman played there every New Year's Eve. Leonard Skinner played there. The Rolling Stones played there in the '80s, in their heyday.
Aretha, it's everybody. All the country stars. Yeah. Again, I think Obama spoke there. Bush spoke there from the political side, and so it's definitely
it's an experience. And Mark, from a sponsor standpoint, and I'm going to make a plea for more sponsors, because obviously Kenny and I are spending a lot of money to make this thing happen, and we thank our sponsors that have already come on, and thank you, Mark and LinkSpring, for that. But if you want to treat your clients to an experience that they will always, always, always remember, that's what Kenny and I go for with every one of these awards. But you're going to walk in, they're going to be blown away. You're going to create memories with them, and you're going to participate. And like Kenny said, I think probably our best ControlTrends Awards ever. We got some surprises coming up like we do every year, but I think we're going to turn the bend on this, and I think we're going to be doing some stuff that we're going to set precedents that's going to go for every show after this. But this is going to be a spectacular show. And if you're not a sponsor yet and still interested in being one, please, please, please reach out to Kenny.
Well, another thing too is I think it's really cool is some of the history we're talking about. Like Fox, 20th Century Fox bought a bunch of these theaters back in the as Nancy gave us the tour, and she told us about where these great theaters that were built around the United States lost their ability to financing. When the Depression, of course, we all have read about it, but it must have been so extraordinary to imagine one day you're on top of the world and you're attending functions at this place. Next day, you're in the food line, waiting for your ration of soup. The 20th Century Fox went around the country and bought several of these. Like, I'm going to guess around 15 to 16 of them, and maintained them over the years. And now there's only 3 of them left. There's one left in St. Louis, one in Detroit, and one in Atlanta. One in Atlanta's probably the most fantastic because they talked about the architecture. They used the Alhambra in Spain. Egypt's Temple of Karnak was the building's elaborate and intensely ornate design. It was based after these things. So again, we talked about it with a great facility. We talked about the great AV capability. We talked about Atlanta becoming just an extraordinary mecca. Technology. It's like a giant magnet for industry and corporations, but more importantly, the high tech stuff. It's all coalescing in Atlanta. So this is a great place to be. Atlanta's got a great airport, by the way, too. The one thing I got to say about traveling different parts of the country, I was in Charlotte. Mark and I ran to our respective connecting flights. That was a horrible experience. And then, but Atlanta is just big and bad. It's wide, it's big. They made that shovel wide. The berth, there's a lot of sway there for new, new technologies and new companies to come in and become part of the Atlanta growth. But so I think what happens, and then with sponsors and everything too, it makes sense that if you're going to come to the HR and spend the money that involves you, or probably your team, you probably got anywhere from 6 to 12 people coming there, and then you've got customers, and you have those different nights where you've got to take care of it. So Sunday, the setup day, we know that many of our sponsors go to the HR convention center. They're working hard, but this gives you a chance to take your whole team and then meet your customers in the same place. So it's a very dynamic and efficient, and it's the networking we got going on now down there. We've got some, like you said, some great plans coming up, but Atlanta has a lot of things already resident to it. And all we got to do is connect the dots there. You've got
right.
You got BACnet, ASHRAE. You've got different manufacturers down there. If I'm not mistaken, Eric said even despite his age, he could still hit the Honeywell building from the Fox Theater.
Oh yeah,
the top there, from the second floor, because it's a block away. But that's actually a very long throw, Eric.
Well, that's their new home. That's their new home. But listen, if you need another reason, we'll get off of this sales pitch. But your finance people will love you instead of taking taking your clients out individually to dinner, because you can't write all that off. You come to the ControlTrends Awards, if I'm not mistaken, Kenny. I mean, as a sponsor, that's probably 100% tax deductible, where if you're taking people out for meals, you got to keep up with the receipts and you can only write a percentage off. Is that right, Professor Smyers?
Well, they changed the tax law about, dinners and taking customers out to dinner, no longer write off, but yeah. Under advertising, it's 100% deductible. You just have to kind of make it, so it qualifies for advertising. And then also, for sponsors, to attend to events like this. I mean, this is an industry related event. This isn't some nonsensical golf outing or something. I'm just kidding. This is all full of networks. So your customers are there. So by being there, you have access probably to between 300 and 400 of the most esoteric people in our industry, people that make a living doing BAS, BMS, HVAC in some fashion, whether a customer support, whether a customer, a large contractor, specifying engineer. This is the place to be. This is the network city.
And I think that is an underspoken thing about the event. We talk about the awards, which is obviously extremely important. We talk about the venue, but the networking aspect of the ControlTrends Awards is, and quite frankly, it's priceless. Because as you just said, Ken, it's the who's who of our industry, whether it be the manufacturers, integrators, distributors, some end users, and so contractors, and so forth and so on. And to get everybody in that environment for a couple hours is an unbelievable thing when you're there, and just you can bounce from one person to the next, and and make contacts, meet people, see people that you haven't seen all year, and things like that. And again, that to me, of everything, is one of the most important aspects of the ControlTrends Awards is the network.
I can't tell you how many people we've had, Mark, that have gotten their next job or have found their next client there. I remember Ben Dorsey used to be with KMC. I mean, one of the first awards he went to, I mean, we had him on camera basically just saying, man, I found 3 customers here. This is great. This has been fantastic. So, and the other thing, we talk about the, Silicon Valley and coming into our business is part of a trend. And, you can go to the Valley, or we're going to try to endeavor to bring the Valley to you. We think one of the awards that's going to be on the nomination ballot coming out soon is going to be the Silicon Valley Partner of the Year, something along those lines. But Kenny, I've been making more and more connections, as you have too, Mark, with the folks from Silicon Valley. Like it or not, they're here to stay. So, as Vito Corleone, one of Kenny's heroes, I think his great uncle Vito, used to say, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. So you don't have to go to the battle. We're going to bring them to you, hopefully.
So speaking of awards, how about this? Obviously there's a group that always comes up with categories and things like that. And some categories are much easier than others. How about we invite the Control Trend Awards community to write Kenny and you and say, if you got any ideas on the subject areas, drop you a note. We can't promise everything, but I think the community, their input would be invaluable. And we talk about voice of customer. Hey, if you got an idea for an award, make sure you send it in to Ken and Eric.
Well, to your point, and this is the critical time. That's why we had our meeting, and then the review, and the review process always began with the top 10 trending items. And we realized how trends changed in the 5 years that we looked at. We went and saw things that were so important 5 years ago, and it dominated the horizons. The smart grid, automated demand response. I mean, they were and then cybersecurity come in right after them, in terms of the number of posts, number of inquiries, and then the products designed for them. Remember all the thermostat wars with the Nest and Ecobee, and Honeywell had the city in Boise, Idaho with 11,000 thermostats because the government wanted to see how these thermostats could play an incredible role. And Eric and I, we had a post this week where I never realized the magnitude of thermostats and how they could affect demand response. In fact, what they have part of their plan was with these thermostats is that they're all battery backed up. And if there's a tragically low or brown out expected or whatever, they can take these thermostats and put them all on battery backup and take them off the grid for a week during this critical time period, and then the thermostats operate perfectly well with that battery. And then when the peak demand part's over, then they go back to regular use and charge the batteries. But I never realized that could be a strategy, put into a region where you could save all that electricity by putting the thermostat somehow into a battery backup mode. And I mean, this is the stuff we used to track, back, let's say 5 years ago. Smart grid was like number 2 or 3 on our trends. So now it's not even in the conversation anymore. So the trends have changed. And then big data came in, IoT came in, cybersecurity still, in the very top or second or third, rung. So it went to a place of very high promise. But then some of the things that have gone in and out of, trending in importance, or the apparent importance, it's all of them are important. But, and so that drove a lot of the category, placement. In other words, when products and solutions were aimed at a certain, need, it was amazing how many products came up. Like, remember the graphics? Remember when you had the DG Logics, and they had the DG Box, and you had J2 Innovation. You had like 5 or 6 graphic companies that were doing well. BASSG, then they focused on graphics, only graphics. And then it kind of migrated into a dashboardish type thing where, and then it moved into energy analytics. And then now, because of data, that they kind of don't use the same monikers, but they're still after that. It's all about data and presenting that data in the most efficient or useful way, so that somebody, it was a CEO or CIO or CTO, whatever, you can feed them the dashboard that made most sense to them, and they're starting their day off like how efficient we are, how close we are to peak demand, where are we at, in a budget, or what are we going to fix first today? What's our biggest energy problem today that we're going to, whatever resources we have, we're going to throw it at that problem, fix it, and move on to the next one. So.
Right. Well, and I think, Kenny, let's give them the email address real quick. They can send those ideas. Mark, that's a great idea. And Mark, is it true that you guys are coming up with a new product called the Data Extractor? Because anybody can have data now, but extracting useful data, is it the Onyx Data Extractor?
I don't know. I'm going to make no comment on that, but don't go copyright that name. That's an interesting name you came up there with, my friend.
Really? The Data Extractor. Yeah, well, it's a ControlTrendsContact@gmail.com. So, I mean, everybody's got a long name, so everybody can handle it in this day and age.
Yeah, but we're rich. Josh Bradshaw's going to hook us up with it.
Contract@gmail.com.
Control Trends Contact, not contract, right?
Hey, Eric, that name sounds like the next Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. I'm the Data Extractor.
Well, you could get a whole campaign with that, right? You could have him come in and do that. So, Mark, tell Terry he owes me one, okay?
I will do that.
And all you got to know about the Control Trends Awards is Terry Swope shows up for him. And Terry's one of the most efficient individuals on the planet. So if he's not getting value, he's not there.
That's
He'll
right.
be the guy with the long hair that's fighting to get on the stage so he can I played at the Fox Theater because Terry's a hell of a blues guitar player too. So.
Yeah, hey Eric, that's a great idea. We'll put an opportunity to play at the Fox Theater.
And,
Terry,
Terry's group will be Terry and the Data Extractors.
Exactly. John Petsy, who we all know, drums.
Yeah.
Leighton Wolf from Northbridge Energy plays a mean guitar as well, and
guy from Tritium, what's his name?
Play, and we could have a pretty good
And then and Roger, sorry, buddy, you're gonna have to audition.
Yeah,
Roger, you know who you are. We're just kidding. We got a great lead singer we can bring in too, but I'm not sure he's talking to us right now, but we'll see. Hey, so the guy, remember the guy at Tritium, Mark, that was kind of their chief technology officer, the guy who played the guitar at the what's his name again? It was
Gareth Johnson.
Somebody told me that he's moved on. Is that any truth to that, or
I'm not aware.
Yeah, I'm not either.
I heard
what
that
a great guy.
too, but yeah.
All right, but I think he might be starting a new company called DataExtractors.com. There's your website, right?
But boy, could he play the guitar. He was a lot of fun.
Oh, he's awesome.
What a super guy.
Yeah, very nice, smart on the technology side, a heck of a guitar player, and all around one of the best guys in the industry.
That's one of the coolest things I saw when they took that Tritium box and made it the base of made it the
guitar,
the construct of the guitar. I mean, that was clever as can be. But boy, could he! I mean, because you and I got to meet him afterwards and interviewed him. In fact, we had an interview coming up with him that it kind of stalled. Maybe that's why. Maybe things of the.
If you're out there, Gareth, wherever you are, please reach out to us. We'll let you play on our show. As a matter of fact, if you want to come to the ControlTrends Awards and play, we could set that up too. I really like DataExtractors.com, Mark. That might be our next business. Maybe we should start that together, guys.
Hey.
All right, we're officially going on the record, man. Collaboration between DMS Controls, LinkSpring, and Stromquist and Company. DataExtractors.com. We'll get just the data you need. All right, boys. Well, listen, Mark, you got some more stuff going on at LinkSpring, so I mean, we posted about your new wireless data router that you guys have, and
we've had a 3G version, and obviously as technology continues to advance, so we now have a 4G version. And again, what we're seeing a lot of use cases for when people want to connect into equipment and systems without even having to go into the BMS network and stuff, they can obviously do it wirelessly. Via cellular, and in this particular case, we actually co-created a specialized data plan with Verizon, a secure VPN for data, and the plan itself is extremely affordable as well, very reasonably priced. And
let me get this straight real quick. You're saying if I have one of my customers that's concerned about cybersecurity, one of my integrators, you pretty much got a turnkey thing with data plan and everything. Basically, you put this data router into the data plan. I mean, it's turnkey. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, you can connect right into the system, and obviously the router will bi-directional communication, can go out, get the data, get the information, and then you can go back in if you so desire. And again, it's all part of the strategy that we set in stone in 2015, this whole edge to enterprise. And we've got some other exciting things that are in the works that I'm hoping, hopefully our developers and stuff, we are on schedule for 2 or 3 new products, 2 by the end of this year, and a 3rd one going early 2019, hopefully for ASHRAE.
And Mark, on the cellular router, I know one of the questions will be asked right away on that is that something that like the contractor can buy for his company and then put onto a job for 2 months and take it off when he's done with it, or does that have to be a permanent installation?
No, you can take it off,
cool.
Put it for 2 months, take it off, get the data, get some information, see how the equipment is running, maybe use some of that data for better commissioning or.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's paramount. We have several contractors that they have one of them. Each one of them has one, or they have two of them, because when they start projects up, that's how they make dang sure that they babysit that thing and work on it. Anything's going on, that's how they use it. But then when it's over, they kind of box it back up, take it to the next project. We had a company where we couldn't do that. Once you bought it and put it in, you had to start the program was with that particular location, and service was specifically for that. So that.
And all of our Onyx products, along with our Genesis Edge products, are open to the community. When I say open, basically, do you have to be a complete LinkSpring business partner? No. That you can go to our e-store and you can purchase those. The only caveat on the Genesis Edge products is that you have to be Niagara certified, because they are a Niagara-based product. But the Onyx products obviously are not Niagara, and again, they're open to anybody out there in the control industry.
Which basically means if you want to go to Kenny's site, dmscontrols.com or stromquist.com.
Absolutely.
Or to our new site, dataextractors.com. Yeah. So, I mean, don't feel like you just have to go to the LinkSpring store, but you should.
Exactly.
But if you go to Stromquist, we'll give you some of these cool headphones that you can rock.
That's right. Somebody said you're throwing those in. You're going to give everybody a pair of those if they buy a certain amount from Stromquist.
Because let me tell you some data. Talk about the experience. Believe it or not, if you got these things with the acid green, it enhances the experience. I'm feeling younger every second I wear these. Look different, guys.
Yeah, you do. You look fresh. Everything's going on there, right there.
You can come to our other site, which is placeboplus.com, if you want to get some more of our products like this. All right, Kenny, what we have up, man? Mark this, great stuff, man. And what else do we have going on, big dog?
Well, it was kind of a truncated week where we had a lot of travel and a lot of stuff going on. We had the smart grid post, which again, it may have been a little excessive for the needs of our ControlTrends community, but I thought this was cool. That's where I got that information about the commercial thermostats and the residential thermostats that have battery backup capability. I mean, I think I got it right, but if you go to the site, it's so full of information and so full of what I consider to be, insight into our industry. It tells you where your next investment should be. I mean, they don't mess around. This is the Department of Energy, and they have the grid impact quantification. It's called the Grid Pick, PIQ, but it has a tool on there. It's called the Learn How to Use the Grid PTO tool that can help you make informed decisions about technology, investments, and policy operations. So it tells you where the next fires are going to get started in the industry, but that's where it said you could go onto here and you could choose a product style and then actually find out if your particular project has enough scope, if it's big enough. But they do CVR projections, savings. They do energy storage. What that's all about: photovoltaics, smart charging for your cars, Eric, like the Tesla you have. It tells you about you compare coordinated and uncoordinated vehicle chargings. I mean, everything now is coming down where they can really get smart and granular about the grid and whatever, because again, they're not going to build any more power stations probably unless they really have to, but they got peaker plants on standby that they sure like to shut down because they're so expensive and they only use maybe 10% of the year, but they got to keep them ready to run full speed for contingency operations. But then the virtual battery, that's what I was talking about. So it leveraged the thermostatically controlled loads for demand response. That's where I got that information about that. So for the ControlTrends community, this is a enormous access into technology and then basically the direction that our DOE is taken in the future. So it tells you where they're going to start putting more money into, and it's all about the Department of Energy, Pacific Northwest, and the smartgrid.gov. So it's a great link.
Very, very cool.
And that was it. We did that travel and took us off the road there for 2 out of the 5 days, Eric. So I apologize, but we've got a backlog. We got a backlog of stuff to post. So next week will be a high post week, but we got to beg off. Oh, wait a minute. Somebody else was traveling in this group. This threesome.
Buongiorno. I'm going to Italy. For, my wife's brother is getting married in Italy, so we're taking the family over. And I'm not coming back. My 5-year-old Evelyn Grace is telling Axel, goes, yeah, the Italians got healthy food over there. And I go, what kind of food do they have? pizza and gelato. It's a kind of ice cream, actually, but it's really good for you.
Oh, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll be able to. Kenny and I are going to endeavor to do the show with me in Italy someplace, and him in Pittsburgh or wherever the heck he is. So it could be interesting the next several weeks. So.
Well, the thing is, like Mark, that was a great plug. We're looking for opportunities to evolve. We understand. I mean, we talk about you can't stay in the sweet spot for too long. It's a disrupted industry. It's full of chaos, but it's full of opportunity. And we have worked with some new products and solutions coming in. We got to be careful what we say and when we say it. But just like Mark, you said, you got some great stuff on the horizon that you're getting ready to release. So that's what I'm saying. It's exciting. And the ControlTrends Awards gives a chance for new products to come in and upstage the old stuff. I mean, again, we're always moving and grooving. To Ken St. Clair's, credit, he's bringing in where this new technology meets the actual rubber hitting the road. And we talked about Comfy and Lindsay Baker. And I drew a little picture here because I was going to try to chime in there. But the thing about what Comfy did was it was not just about it was sold as increasing comfort and increasing productivity, but it did have extraordinary impacts to the accuracy of the building automation system, because it was the most precise zoning that you could offer, because everybody's smartphone basically was a location, indication. So you could take those smartphones, put it into the VAS, and then you knew exactly where people were. So how occupied the periods were during the occupied period. So you could actually create even greater strategies on reducing it. So if everybody's in a meeting in the auditorium for 2 hours because they're doing some kind of a big, presentation, those areas that they would normally be occupied, they're in the occupied because they're not present. They could do, make a thermostatic response on set point. But more importantly is the migrations that occur during the day, especially like, when people work from home on Tuesdays or they leave early on Fridays. Remember the chiller guy that we had? Eric,
Kenny, you agreed you weren't going to give away our new product that DataExtractors.com is coming out with. It'll win the thermostat of the year next year. It's called the phone stat. Eliminates the need for a stat on the wall. It walks around. It's hooked up to your smartphone, so it knows your temperature. So you don't even have to know whether you're hot or cold or not, because it's going to collect the data, and it's automatically going to interface with the system. So if you're not there, to your point, I mean, thermostat manufacturers enjoy it because DataExtractors.com are coming out with the phone stat in the very, very near future. You gave it away, Kenny. Mark, I'm sorry about that. The man, the myth, the legend, just couldn't keep it on his hat. But colors will be link spring blue, right?
Absolutely. And if you act, now we'll send you 2 for the price of 1.
Right.
But shipping and handling are additional.
You can be if you're an angel investor, minimum investment $10,000 to Data Extractor.
Well, we'll be going through Amazon Prime, so if you're
an official headset here that will interface.
That's right.
And it gives you super, super cool points with the younger generation. You will rock. You'll be your daughter's hero at kindergarten if you're rocking these things, man. Mark my words. The phone stat.
Nice. Phone stat. I remember this from a little while ago. Phone stat. I'm going to do some research on that. You implemented that one, I think, last year. Remember on one of the posts you created the phone stat?
Yeah, I think so. I don't remember when it comes to the reason we have to record these shows is because I say stuff and I can't
remember.
Right? So Kenny's able to go. Episode so and so and so and so. You said this. DataExtractors.com. Copyright. Done.
I like the name. That has a very resound. I haven't heard it before, so I don't know if you can patent that stuff just on word of mouth here. But
Apple's fighting with us right now, and so is LeBron James. They want to call it the iPhone stat, but it's the phone stat, and LeBron James wants to call it the barbershop stat. So, and the reference I'm giving is he had gotten in a fight with Nick Saban over copywriting the term barbershop talk or something. That story, Mark?
I've heard it, but I haven't followed it at all.
Along the lines of Nick Saban had a weekly show called The Barbershop or whatever he talked about football, and LeBron James said that was my idea. So they've actually went to sue Nick Saban over there.
Eric, bad news.
What's that?
Data extractor, tension software, forensic data recovery kit for the iPhone. Sorry, bud. It's already taken. Data extractor's gone.
Hey, our attorneys, we'll make a call to Apple tomorrow. We'll get that all straightened out, man. Don't worry about it. Yeah, Apple, you mess with us, you're going to have to pay more to be a sponsor of the ControlTrends Awards. We're not fooling around. So, all right, Marcus, what you got coming up this week, big dog?
I'm actually something new and different, traveling for the beginning of the week, and then Going to be working out of the home office for the rest of the week with the big holiday, the last holiday of the summer. And then my wife, on a personal note, my wife and I, we have fallen in love with Hilton Head, South Carolina over the years. So we'll be doing our annual trek to Hilton Head for a couple of days coming up here. So
we might have to have a Control Trends meeting down there, huh?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think we should have one there.
Well, it's beautiful. It's very nice.
Yeah, Kenny, just so you know, Mark's already volunteered. If we can't connect in Italy, he's volunteered to step in and be the host of Control Talk now. Now he's also let me know that if he does that, he's not giving it back. So I'll be really
we got that little studio Eric's sitting in there. Got to get some. Yeah, Eric, we went down and we visited Fox Theater, and I got a chance to revisit Eric at his theater there, his studio, HVAC Productions, and it's a pretty nice setup you got there, Eric.
Well, I think what we need to do is we need to create a rolling studio on the road. We go get one of those nice $2 million Provost buses.
Oh, yes.
Make that a studio, and we go from town to town, visit the Control Trends community, and
awesome.
Hey,
road show, man. We'll tell Terry to get the bus for us, and we'll give it to him afterwards so he can take his rock and roll band.
Okay.
What you think about it? We go to all the national shows. I mean, we keep
absolutely.
There's probably one or two a month. We just I like it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll have to probably get a secondhand bus though, Eric. I don't think we're gonna go with the new one.
Well, I just watched this series on Leonard Skinner. It's on HBO, I think, or Showtime. One of those, and man, what a phenomenal documentary. But
I saw Pittsburgh last night. I saw the same one. It was excellent. It was excellent.
Yeah. So when
they played in Pittsburgh last night. Talking about Leonard Skinner, they had an incredible. It was like they had Hank Williams Jr., 38 Special, Leonard Skinner, and there was one more, but that was just last night at the in Pittsburgh.
Well,
I almost wanted to go.
Not to give anything away, but Mark, you remember the scene at the end where they're going on the bus and not the bus, they're getting on the plane, and they had to jump start the plane. It was all kinds of crazy stuff, and you hear him saying, we should probably take this thing and get it tuned up. And Ronnie Van Zant saying, well, if you don't want to get, a lot of people want to get on the plane. You don't want to get on the plane, find your way to the concert. Just be there by tomorrow night. So
what happened? They ran out of gas or something? I think I heard they ran out of gas. They're playing.
No, I think excuse me. I think the deal was the plane was long overdue for service. So, and not only that, they were talking on their smartphones in the water. So, but anyway, all right, there you go, folks.
Yeah, Marshall Tucker was the other band. Marshall Tucker was with them too.
Yeah,
right.
That's a heck of a that's a heck of a show there.
Well, of course, dude, they're all like 80 years old now, unfortunately.
So are we, Eric.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of that, Mark, I just got a text on the dataextractors.com text line from C. Crawford and Linda Evangelista said, Mark Holler. So whatever that means. But what we're referring to as Mark Peacock started his illustrious career in New York City back in the early 80s and was known to cavort around Studio 54 with Cindy Crawford and the rest of the supermodels. So, and then he married the best supermodel of all, Connie. So,
absolutely.
So, and Cindy Crawford has never gotten over it. So, Mark, every time we get you on the show, she's always lighting the text line.
All righty. Appreciate it.
Well, there you go, folks. Another week on Control Talk, now your smart buildings, videocast, and podcast. A special thanks to Mark Peacock from Linkspank for sitting in with us. He's, among other things, the host of the Control Trends Awards. And, of course, the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only, Kenny, football playing, Hank Williams singing, Smyers in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So with that, remember, be bold, stay in control, find a sponsor for the Control Trends Awards, stay relevant. We love you. Have a great week.
Indeed, Eric.
Indeed, Eric.
Indeed, guys. Indeed. All right. I think we hammered out. Let me turn the recorder off. And there we got it, brothers.
Cool. Good one.
That was a good one, huh?